Jamie, are you there? I think I saw something that Jamie was having a hard time hearing.
Yeah, I think I just got a Skype. He lost audio. Perhaps he can try and log back in. Perhaps you can share your screen and go ahead and end. We can just kind of start, or we could wait for him.
All right, hang on one second. Let me go ahead and I'll...
Thanks for showing up today. Sorry for the little technical snafu there, but everything seems to be back in working order. Welcome to another office hours on another Monday, April 25th. So before we get cracking here, just want to do the lawyer speak. Just want to make sure that,
Can you show your screen?
I was assuming that I was because
I was showing mine. No, I was showing mine. I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe you will have to stop it.
It's paused.
Okay, so over here my button to share screen is currently grayed out.
I've got change presenter, Brad twice, and Scott once.
Okay, yay.
All right.
So my share screen button, there we go.
There we go.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Beautiful. Hey, the disclaimer. What a beautiful
Isn't
sight.
it a wonderful disclaimer? Okay. All right. Seems like we're on track now. All right. So just want to make sure that everybody out there is aware of the fact that we here at Trade Ideas are publishers of information. We're not registered investment advisors. So everything that we share with you here today is strictly for educational purposes. So please do not take what we share with you today as a solicitation to buy or sell anything. All right, moving right along. Just wanted to show the last update of Holly, and of course, what we're seeing here is probably going to coincide a little bit with where we are in the market that Steve was briefly speaking about there before we had our little technical issues. So not a whole lot to report here. Just taking a little rest period here, hopefully before we pop new highs. All right, so got some pretty interesting stuff on the table for you today. Once again, the theme is where do we find the action? And then once we find the action, what do we do with it? And hopefully we'll have enough time today to where we can get into where's the action using our top list and using our price limit alert windows to capitalize on that. And then if we have time today, I'd like to get into some of the back testing that we've been doing here lately, which has been working out pretty good. One of the windows that Steve and I farmed out past couple of webinars was a redo of the mob long, a different version of that, and it's been spitting out some pretty good trades, and we'll look at a couple of those today. Of course, we'll always cover Holly, talk about her activity today. So let us begin. Okay. So real quick here, I've got the AI channel pulled up. However, before we talk about Holly, let's talk about a different part of the Trade Ideas methodology. The most important part right off the bat is finding the candidates that are most likely to do what you think they're going to do. So for example, here we have the channel bar up. So for example, if I just go ahead and decide to click on the active trader channel. And by the way, Steve, did you get your information out about the market, or do we need to revisit that before we move on here?
No, I think that was the general gist. We're still tucked up underneath those heavy resistance levels and spiders. However, as I mentioned, we cannot seem to sell off. The buyers seem to show up end of day and give us some nice little daily wicks to keep popping back up. This could be setting right back up once again to be a pullback that could be bought into the foregone conclusion of trying to test those supply levels up above. But if we were going to roll over, number one, I don't think we're going to roll over without first testing those levels above us. It's just a matter of how we're going to get there. And today and yesterday, Friday, I should say, with the nice buyers coming in at the close, giving us a nice little possibility of building yet another higher low with a base camp built for a possible retreat, not retreat, but a attempt on higher highs, and that'll be right up there and where those resistance levels are. So, we're going to talk about a little bit of a theme that today was, kind of a light day for Holly. The trade of the week selection committee had a rough time selecting some trades this week. So the pick-ins and the setups are not quite as juicy and as abundant as they have been in the past. but I think it's just a function of where we are. We're just kind of chopping around up here at these levels. We don't really have any direction, just trying to build a base and see where we go from here.
Right, and interestingly enough, what we're seeing on the SPY right now looks very similar to some of the patterns that we've been picking, on these trend change, the stocks that are busting out of their daily. If we were looking at this, Steve, I think we'd say one thing: let's get a pullback fill. We could bracket this off right here on the SPY, lower extremes down here, here, and here. Matter of fact, why don't we just mark that up real quick? All right, so we're just looking at, well, actually, let's see here. Make sure I'm looking at the right chart here. So we are looking at the daily here on the SPYs. So real quick here, just right off the bat, trying to figure out what things are going to do here. Just draw a line there. Come along, draw a line here. And then, of course, the upper extreme here. So once again, this looks very similar to the trend change pattern that we've been playing.
Well, I want to add something too, if I could, before you move on. That middle line, look how the middle line was acting as resistance last month, early in the month. Now we've kind of bounced really close to taking it. We've got very close to kissing it in today's low extreme, but it's starting to act again as prior resistance acting as current support. So that's what first sticks out to me.
Right, and after the run that we've had, I mean, look at this. Just look at that. We had a huge rally off the bottom, and now that we're getting up into this congestion area, it's no big surprise that hunting is a little bit more difficult because all the game's been exhausted, right, for a short period of time. Now, as we know, earnings are coming into play. That always stirs the pot, right? But are we going to bust new highs or cycle back down to the range? Who knows? But looking at where the SPY has been and where it's come from, it's definitely getting a little bit more difficult to find the juicy trades. However, fear not.
I think that's the easiest illustration you can put right there, are those three lines, quite honestly. Those are the two levels of interest, and we need that top level to hold if the bulls are going to stay in control.
Right, and once again, it's about keeping things simple. What I'm doing right here is not rocket science. And, hey, guess what? The SPY is a big liquid thing as well. So, dipping a toe into the SPY pool on, whatever share size you're comfortable with, we all know it's liquid, and, so there's always good trades to be pulled on anything exhibiting patterns such as this. Okay, so on to the hunt. How do we flush out game when the game has been, kind of over-hunted in the short term? So right off the bat, here I am at the active trading channel. I believe I'm at the active trading channel. Right, okay, there's my turbo breaks up, so I know I'm there. And once again, we're going to focus on these two top lists down here, which are showing us things that are down the most, they're taking the biggest up spikes, and things that are up the most, they're pulling back, because as we know, things don't go straight down or straight up. They may for a short period of time, but they're always going to take the breathe.
Not going to take the highway.
Exactly, exactly. So, we've got a pretty full list here of things. Up these patterns as well, we can start, seeing if there's anything in there. This one's a little stretched out, doesn't look so good. And the beautiful thing about what we have here is you can just pick the cherries and only put the limit alerts into your window that look the most pristine to you. Of course, everybody's got a different opinion of what that is, but I think at a base level, there's a certain pattern that when we humans look at it, we go, ooh, that looks good. And sometimes that works, but sometimes we see it and, ooh, it looks good, and it doesn't work. So how do we differentiate? And that is by plotting through as many setups as we can and only taking the cherry ones where the risk is in place, where we have some good upside potential. So, it's not a complex procedure here, this methodology that we keep reiterating. It's basically scanning through these guys, and of course, those of you who have had a training session with me, regardless of the setup it is, whether you're watching turbo breaks or consolidation, breaks or in our 7s. You know, as a trader, what do? We sit here and we cycle through symbols all day. That's what we do. Sometimes we only have to get through 5 or 10 before we find something conducive. Sometimes it's 10, 15, 20, or 30, depending on the day. So when we start seeing these patterns, right, and I just pulled up AFI. Now, interestingly enough, Steve, that's as far as my daily goes back. So I'm assuming that
Must be a new issue.
This is a new issue. Even better. So it's a new issue. It's, you know, it's been cycling between 12 and 14-ish. And now look what's happening. A brand new issue has popped above. And of course, we had a nice little tight consolidation here. And so, you know, once again, we don't like to chase. However, we can start assigning some value levels here. So looking at this one and, you know, kind of coming back around to the activity in the first 30 minutes these days where we see these, you know, these big flushes to the downside, even on the stocks that are going to finish the day with the, you know, the biggest upside gains and the most momentum. A lot of the times they'll flush them out in the first 30 minutes and then the buyer will come back in. So, you know, looking right here, if we take the high of this candle right here, we're looking at 1497. So, you know, I'd much rather get the pullback fill than chase something and get wiggled out of it and then it goes. So it's real easy just to go, okay, 1497. You know, we'll make it breach by a penny. Or excuse me, make it will be a penny above that wick right there. So if it falls back down, we want to get that fill. PB fill. Don't want a plus sign in there. Don't chase. And the beautiful thing about this is if we don't get it, that's okay too. Because when we're playing this game, there are a lot more patterns out there that look just like this or similar. So we just, once again, we go through the process. We add the limit alert. And, you know, when we're using our limit alert window, it's about the cumulative price here, you know, over a period of time. So this does bring up a good point to make. Those of you who have been attending the webinars regularly, you know, let's reflect back about 3 weeks. You know, Steve and I have been giving out a nice little assortment of limit alerts that we've kind of cherry-picked over the past 3 weeks. And what you might notice is that when we first started doing it, immediately within about 2 to 3 days, the thing would be up 2, 3, 4 points, like clockwork. Even one was up a massive amount, but that's because I think it was ICPT was in there for a 30-point winner. But now we're starting to notice, you know, we'll get in the money a little bit, and then, you know, slowly things will tick back down. So, you know, here lately, we've been in the money, and, you know, 1.5, 2 points, and then we'll pull back and we'll be out of the money a little bit. So we're getting a lot more ebb and flow, and that is a symptom of where the market is. So, you know, circling back around once again, it just, you know, the message here is that when the market is doing these things, everything is still there. We just have to be a little bit more prudent, a little bit more discerning about the entries that we take. But, you know, we can compensate by the lack of game just by plotting through more and more symbols here and looking for that nice pattern that we like to see. So you can see here these windows are chocked pretty full today. So what if we want to get a little bit more precise? You know, get to the stocks that are, you know, a little bit more interesting. We can always come in here and we can see these lists are set to default by showing us stocks that are down or up a minimum of 3%. So what if we just came in here and said, okay, let's narrow the list down. It's going to make our lives a little bit easier, and hopefully we're going to find some quality there.
Yeah, 8%. That should narrow the list down a little bit.
Right, and then we'll do the exact same thing for the upside. And we'll say up 8. All right, so now we've shrunk the list down even more so. All right, AVXL. Once again, now, real quick here. Pardon me, I'm just referencing another chart here. I thought that this was, yeah, okay. I just didn't like the gap here. But regardless, just because Jamie doesn't like the gap that doesn't necessarily mean that this trade's not going to go. And we can see it just popped its head above today, and the previous high here was 623. What it closed at? 606. So this one might actually be pretty good. And if we look at the volume levels here, 6.9 million, 551. So today the gap up occurred and it did do a lot more volume, but typically that's for a reason. So I'd have no qualms about setting a, limit alert here, going 624. 6.24 rises too, because once again it closed at 591.
Do you want that to be a short? It's coding as a short there too, by the way.
Oh no, we don't want that. We want to go long that little guy if he breaches this area right here. Okay. So, once again, this methodology, it's not rocket science. It's a simple three-step method. Where's the action? We find our list to find the action. We go through and we look at our charts, just like everybody does. And when we see something, we use the limit alert window so that we can act on that action at the proper time. ADRO right here, another nice little break from this resistance back here. It's got some room. Now, once again, don't necessarily know if I'd want to chase it here, but put a pullback alert somewhere about right there, about 1504. So if it falls, ADRO falls to 1504, we want to go long for that PB fill, and we don't want to chase it.
It's always nice to mark those pullback alerts in the notes the way Jamie does. He does it with PB fill, so that way you can kind of quickly get a good glance. When you're looking at the entire price list window, you can quickly see which ones are set for pullbacks.
Right, and as Steve likes to say all the time, this is rational Jamie making rational decisions on what he should do when he's trading Jamie. And so, once again, it's a calming effect because you can go back and you can read your notes, every time one of these alerts triggers. Don't chase it. Don't chase it.
Exactly. Whatever you can do to prepare your current mind in a state of highly excited trading mentality, whatever you can do to keep yourself calm and zen-like and approach it in that respect is good. So those notes really do help.
Absolutely. So once again, you can see that a lot of the conducive chart patterns, are coming from the long side. However, just because they had, a bad day today doesn't necessarily mean they're out of the count. Here we go, G-Pro, one of everybody's favorites. Steve, you tweeted about GoPro not too long ago.
Yeah, with the guy with the crazy Super 8 camera.
That was an awesome. That was an awesome image. I was like, where did that come from? Like the $6 Million Man or something?
Well, I also said, and today didn't help, but I'll just paraphrase again. We've got earnings coming up on this one, and this thing has just been beaten to hell. I firmly believe, no matter what the earnings say, good or bad, even if they're bad, I believe that GoPro is going to get a bounce out of it. I firmly believe, looking at that chart there, when you hear the phrase, "Oh, the negativity, the negative news is already priced in," I firmly believe that the underperforming and the disappointment, all the metrics across the board on GoPro are firmly priced in. So they could throw in just a crappy earnings report coming up here, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them move higher because it's now official. You got that behind you. It's all known now, and that's really, how these things work. You need to wait for earnings for the new catalyst to come in, as all the hedge funds and the funds have their models, and they repress change and rearrange all the numbers. But again, I'm just going to go out on a bit of a limb as Steve, not representing anybody other than Steve, just saying I think GoPro's bad earnings, if they are bad earnings, are probably priced in.
Right, and if you're looking at this chart, you've got options. There's not just one play here. We could do this. We could say, okay, the high of that little wick there, 1484. So we could come in here and set 1485 as an upper extreme, right? Or if we want to be early to the party, we can use this level right here. We could say 1435 and just put whatever note you'd like in there. Or because as you said, you think this, however, we never really know. And it's just like, earnings season is like every stock in the market has news on it. It's the same type of activity. Oh, well, I thought the news was good. I bought it. It went down. Oh, okay. Well, I guess the good news was bad news. But you see my point here. A lot of the times, earnings, companies will blow earnings out and the stock will go down, So, what happens if things go wrong for GoPro, right? Well, then we can also set the downside as well. So if we take the low of this candle right here and go, okay, well, if earnings don't go so well, maybe the low of this one right here, if this thing goes down to 10.99, I might want to just go ahead and get short because I think the worst is yet to come, right? So we could also say this and create more or less a bracket, a lot of 3 different options here. Upside break, you want to be early to the upside break, and then what happens if things go wrong? So yeah, if GoPro goes down to 10.99, I do want to short, The
triple bracket, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. So, one thing's for sure. Whenever GoPro gets interesting in my book, I'm going to know about it, And as you like to say all the time, Steve, chance favors the prepared mind. And this is what preparation is all about right here. This is preparation that you see here.
Yep. Charts, alerts, and price lists. Very simple.
Right.
The Holy Trinity.
That is true. And then, of course, we have to squeeze Holly in there, too, because she's part of the equation as well.
Well, she's one of the alerts. Exactly. She's one of our idea-generating alerts that would categorize as such.
It is. And just everybody keep in mind, I just picked the active trading channel. But you can do this activity on any channel. I was saying last Thursday, some of the better trades that I've seen, not only Holly generate as late, but some of the best setups that I've seen here lately have been coming through our proprietary StockTwits feed. And just to refresh everyone's memory here, let me just spawn a new alert window and just make sure everybody knows exactly. Oh, let me close my new alert window and then reopen it. Just so everybody knows what I'm talking about here. So I just go into configure. Okay, so this StockTwits activity spike alert right here. We get the feed from StockTwits, but then we refine it even further. It's just like having a market feed for the NASDAQ or the NYSE. I mean, that feed in and of itself is pretty chaotic and noisy, so we have to try to shrink it down with our alerts and our filters, and the same thing applies to the StockTwits activity spike, what the old mob is talking about. So we can always say, okay, show me things that are being discussed on StockTwits at least 2 times compared to what is average, or 3 times, or whatever. So this one's been producing some pretty interesting stuff as of late. So you can also come to this channel and go through the same process that we were doing by, looking, seeing if it's conducive for your eyes and what you like to see, and setting that limit alert. Okay, so once again, it doesn't matter which channel you're using to perform that type of activity, otherwise known as a methodology. Now, we're going to cruise on over to Holly and take a look at what went on in Holly's world today.
Not much.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, that means something. And hey, let's just, take a little sidestep here. Everybody gets excited for the new day. And, when I saw the list of strategies, of course, I saw them late Friday evening for today's session. But when I saw this lineup, I'm like, oh, it might be, gangbusters come Monday. But that was just my preconceived notion, which we all know one of the worst things that you can do as a trader is come into a session with a preconceived notion, right? Now, if you're looking at technicals, that's one thing. But a preconceived notion oftentimes can be a dangerous thing. Now, if you get to once you've been doing this for a while, you'll be able to identify that. Your lizard brain starts talking to you. It's like, I think, whatever, Netflix is going to go up, or I should get long Google. or whatever. But the more you spend, the more time you spend in front of the screen, the more time you spend trading and perusing data, the more you can realize when those little demons come pecking on you, and stay away from one of those mistakes, which is a preconceived notion. Now the good thing is, Holly just didn't fire many trades today. There were only, let's see, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 strategies in the hopper. If you were like me, you're like, okay, you were just waiting for the shorts to fire all day. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, these are very specific sets of data. And so, only 4 of the strategies fired today. And out of the 4 strategies that fired, 7, 9, only a total of 10 trades were produced. So right off the bat, that's telling us something. Yeah, the market's up here at these extremes. Hunting is a little bit more difficult. Even Holly had a hard time scaring up any game today. Beating bushes, things would come running out. And, out of 7, 9, 10 trades, it was kind of a hit or miss day today. Now, here we are looking at the closed trades. Of course, Netflix got spit out by the mob at the close, and of course, Holly had to get out at her designated time and left a little bit of money on the table, but not much, maybe 12 cents. Now, for those of you who were paying attention in the middle of the day, AGIO was certainly interesting, to say the least. So let me just expand this chart a little bit for the intraday. And of course, we can look at the daily as well. So once again, this pattern here looks very familiar. Of course, the breakout occurred. Where'd my crosshairs go? There we go. Of course, for getting real technical here, we had this area right here and the little pullback, and then right here we're busting out again, and now it's starting to get.
It looks like a perfect candidate for a pullback alert, doesn't it? If you expand that daily chart out, that's the kind of stuff we're doing all day long,
Exactly.
and we will be doing again here in the next half hour. Not chasing the breakout, but it looks like it needs to regather and pull back. So it gives you a 2.0 opportunity to get an entry on that daily. So we usually go back and look and see where the tops and bottoms of wicks are in the past and try and identify a pivot point. And that could be a place to use a pullback alert. But like I said, we'll have some more demonstrations on that soon.
Right. So here we can see the entry bar for Holly right there at 740, about 25 seconds after. Here's the par right here, and what a great trade. It never really threw us a curveball, just slowly grinded itself up, and of course Holly got out for her 71 cents, but we can see what happened after that. I believe at one point there was about an additional $1.30 that could have been gleaned from that trade, and as we always like to say, here we are in the entry, 840 was right here. So, we see this all the time, and we always give the same response. If you were in this trade and Holly's exit time came up, it's a very, it's pretty simple to look at that and go, you know what, I'm going to try to get a little bit more out of this and set a stop loss because there's really no reason to get out. We've had a nice little up move. Now we did a little micro consolidation. Wasn't throwing any big, wicks in there. So, hey, Holly's out. I'm going to tighten my stop. I'm going to try to get a little bit more. And boy, that thing really paid today. And then, of course, later on in the day, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me because I was looking at my non-exit profit again, and this thing turned and burned and went all the way back down, right? So, you could also say that there was additional potential trade around type activities there. But hey, if I was just long this thing today and was able to milk it, for a little bit more up here, completely happy considering the day and, the type of day that it was. Now, hey, I'm sure there are some of you out there that might have, flipped it over up here. And if you did, more power to you. But definitely one of the stocks today that had, some of the biggest tradable moves in it today. A little bit easier of a ride on the upside. This was a little bit more of a, You know, it's like one of those rides at Six Flags where they take you up and just drop you free fall. You know, but in any case, a good stock for trading nonetheless. Now, when we look at all these other non-exit profits, not a whole lot's jumping out at us. Yeah, you know, the stop losses were working today. We gave away our 50 cents. We saved some money here. You know, had we stayed in this one, we would have lost double. Took our 33 cents on Mylan, which, you know, when I saw this, I was like, I think that's going to be a pretty decent trade. But then again, anytime you have a daily where that happens, it's throwing a little bit more uncertainty in there. So the stop losses are working. Left a little bit on the table on a few other trades. And of course, the big player today that really could have made your whole day just on the one long trade was AGIO. Okay, so let's talk about, you know, I was briefly mentioning the mob. So on Holly's version today, it was kind of a wash. Lose 33 cents here, make 35 cents there. Steve, did you have something to add there?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I was just typing
That's
away
okay.
on a question.
That's okay. Okay, so now that we're on the topic of social media, there was a window that Steve and I farmed out last Thursday that was a redo of the mob long. So what I'd like to kind of sketch some broad strokes on here is that we all know that Holly's starting team is based on intense data processing. You know, every night, once again, she's processing close to 1 million potential trades, only the strategies that score high enough on our proprietary scoring system make the starting team the next day. So what I'd like to show you guys today is, and we've covered this in the past, but really what it is, it's a way for you to create your own version of maybe a Holly type strategy. Because Holly's doing such massive computational things behind the scenes with every filter and every possible scenario. But we as humans, you know, and what I'd like to reiterate here is that everybody out there that has access to the AI channel also has access to the backtester, the thing that makes Holly possible. And for those of you who are not AI subscribers, yeah, the AI channel is a tremendous asset. But once again, a lot of people lose track of the fact that, hey, I can go hunting myself, and I can have Holly and go hunting myself. Maybe that's a cake and eat it too type thing. I don't know.
Nah.
But here's what I'd like to kind of cover real quick here. So and on a day where, you know, there was a lot of red, right? And for most of the day, you know, what we have a, you know, slight gap down all the way to the bottoms, all the way pushed back up to the top. Didn't quite, you know, didn't quite go pushing new highs or anything. But during this whole slide down here, you know, even down here when I was, you know, right there in the real time here, you know, it was kind of iffy down here. Everybody's like, well, we've been consolidating down here for a little bit of time. Are we ever going to bounce? Of course, finally, they have to give us one more leg, and then we go back up. But if we start looking at the plays that were issued out of this rendition of the social media activity, then here we are today, and we can start to see these plays. So, for example, TPX was issued right here, and if you took that trade, you probably just were in a position to be slightly profitable or flat trade. Of course, the market's still trying to catch here, and, you know, more of the same here. However, once 740 kicked in, things got a lot more interesting. So here we are looking at this play right here. CVS, the mob's talking about it right here, and then boom, that was the entry bar right there. and a nice uptrend, right? In a market where, for the most part of the first half, it was a little iffy there if we were going to catch any traction. So the thing to point out about CVS here is that compared to the SPY move, we got some nice alpha here, all the way from 100 and 101.07, up to a nice, full point almost. But the beautiful thing about this is you never really had to sweat it too much. Sit a little pullback here and then more to the upside. So a really nice entry in the CVS right there. And then the next one was MBLY. And, can't get any better than calling it down here. Especially once you see, even if you didn't participate until right here, once you see that wick being established there, that's always a pretty good area to use as a stop loss. Now let's just keep on looking. Once again, the same thing is going to play out. On the ones that did not just go straight up, if we were getting long in this area right here, we had potential for exit, and not take too bad of a loser, or maybe just a slight profit at that level right there. Of course, here's another really good trade today. And this was on a lot of people's radar, and of course, everybody at StockTwits was talking about it. And so, what a nice entry there, on the dish. And, when we're looking at the daily as well, that little bad boy is popping out of his range there. So,
question, because you're kind of related here, so I'll bring it up. The gentleman's asking about on the StockTwits alerts there, the social media mob alert. Is it possible to use this alert with the social media with pre-market or aftermarket hours data? Is there any way to monitor this alert in pre-market or aftermarket, or are we only limited to during the market with this particular alert?
Well, that's a good question. Now, when we're talking about backtesting, the backtester only backtest the market session. You can't backtest pre or post market. Now, does the StockTwits alert function pre-market, right? So this is always a good exercise that I like to do because when we're talking about pre and post market activity, everybody just needs to remember that some alerts will report pre and post market even though they do not say that in the title. And also, the other part of that equation is the filter set, because filter sets will report pre-market, or let me rephrase that. Some filters report pre-market, some do not, and since the filters work in the all or none capacity, sometimes someone will have a window that's functioning pre-market. They'll go in there and make some changes or maybe add a filter, and then all of a sudden, nothing's happening. And it's because that one filter does not report pre-market, so it makes their whole set null and void. But here's a good little way. If you're ever configuring one day, one night, and you're like, I wonder if this, okay, so I just started a window from scratch. So we have nothing in this window. So what I'm going to do is cruise over here and install the StockTwits activity spike. So that's all we have, right? All we have is this alert with no filters, looking at the major exchanges. So then really all I have to do is go look at the history. Is this thing reporting pre-market or not, right? Of course, I can manually keep scrolling here. Yeah, okay, we're already back down to the bottom. So I get to 6:30, which is the open, right? And sure enough, I can see, indeed, this alert will report pre-market. So as long as you're not installing filters that would prevent that, and a lot of the basic ones like minimum maximum price, things of that nature, they're not going to affect it. But a good rule of thumb as you're assembling a new pre or post market alert and filter combination is just to go set up your filters one at a time and then just go back after every filter, and we don't have to go through the whole history. We could just say time frame. Okay, I want you to start at the open, and we could just leave that at midnight if we wanted to, or we could put 6, but you could just leave that at 12 a.m. So start at 6:30, and then we can see, yes, it's still reporting pre-market, so I'm not doing anything to, to mess it up, and then I keep adding any additional filters that I think may be conducive to what I'm trying to build here, and just, do a quick check after every filter addition, and that way you know that you're not preventing your filter complement from reporting pre or post market.
There you have it, Jose.
So I hope that answered the question.
I think it did. He seems satisfied. I don't know if we're going to have time. Joe's asking if we can walk through a back test. Do you think we have time for that, or should we save that for another day?
Well, we've got time to walk through a back test.
All right, let's do that. All right, I'm going to pop. This is a good one because what I just popped into your Skype there, Jamie, is actually a close cousin to the strategy that came in today with a 75% win strategy, the Bollinger Band scalp.
Okay.
And so this is essentially, again, we got to remind you guys that when Holly gets a hold of these things, she tweaks them and changes them and gives them a little sparkle here and shaves a little bit of hair there, and it's never really the same thing twice, but she's so good at optimizing that she could come out and take this particular strategy, which we're going to manually back test for you, and make it most optimized. So I'll kind of walk Jamie through it here on the Bollinger Bands. We'll just right-click and do a quick back test. It won't take that long, and just zero it out from 6:30 to 12, and that's good. All right, and timed exit, we'll just leave it at 60. Risk management should be at 1 to 3. Risk 1% to make a 3% profit. Advanced, we're going to go back 40 days. No trailing stops, and then summary, we're going to run it. So we'll simulate a sell, and it's going to give us, kind of a basic base look at this particular configuration, the way it sits. Now again, what Holly's done is taken it and added all sorts of new stuff to it that I couldn't even keep track of, but this is the basics behind this particular strategy. It's looking for an intraday Bollinger Band push above 100 on kind of medium to average mediocre volume. So we're not jumping in front of huge volume because this is going to be a short sell of a stock that's moving up quickly and pushing through its Bollinger Band. So the beauty of using the back tester is to say, hey, what's the optimum time window we can make this work? And we got a lot of slippage in there, and I normally start with a bigger size account. Let's do starting equity 50,000. 50,000 account,
okay,
and make the dollar share value for each trade, make it 10,000. So we're risking 20% of each account's trades, and then the slippage is probably pretty weak in there too at that amount. But what you can see here is we had a profit factor of 2.53. We need 2.0 or better. I think we can do better than that. 115 trades, 53 win percent. That's the gist of this first run. But I happen to know there's a way we can optimize this. So go ahead and click the Optimize tab, and this is what Holly does every evening. Skip up to time of day, and we'll be able to see really quickly there the meat of this move on that green heat map seems to occur between 8:30 and 11:30ish. Or maybe even 11:15, depending upon how many intervals you look at. So we can rerun this and chop off those bad times a day, because that's what the backtest was telling us. The first 2 hours of that day was crap. You don't want those. You want to cut that out. So this is the optimizing step, and this is what Holly's doing a million times every evening with another 35 or so strategies. Now when we rerun this, we can compare it to our first run, and this is where we start to see the optimization come into play. We have cut way back on our trades. We're only down to 54 trades now, so we've cut the trades in half, but we've doubled our profit factor. It's as simple as that, 68.5%. I don't know what Holly did to get that thing up to 70%, but whatever she did to get it over 70% is the wisdom and the magic of the AI. I'll never know. But just being, a manual backtester and optimizer, I know the strategy, and I know that cutting out that time frame is going to give us a much better profit factor, smaller trades, and a better win position across the board. So, to satisfy your question there, Joe, that's a quick test through the back tester. It usually tells us, hey, more often than not, it's not a good strategy. When we think as a human, I got the best strategy in the world, wait till I put this through the system. The system spits it out and says, this is crap, what else you got? And that's about the best thing that can happen to you. It's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money. All right.
Indeed, indeed. Yes,
Joe
so that's a
Sutton.
good example. Good example, Steve.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, so let's see. We got 10 minutes left here. I want to make sure that we get our limit alerts out to everybody.
Yeah.
So stand by 1 second and let me, now as always, we're going to drop the cloud link into the chat area. So stand by, incoming link.
And again, when you guys copy that price alert cloud link, there's no fanfare to let you know that when you've loaded it from the cloud that it's pasted. You just literally have to go in to your price alert windows, open it up, and then manually look for them, and you'll see them there with the date of today of 4/25.
Right, I'm just clearing this up, make sure I don't get the wrong ones in there, and I think we're good to go. All right, that link should now be in the chat window. So feel free, those of you who have the price alert functionality, when you do load that up, you won't see the window pop up like normally. It'll just add those alerts to your window. And you can always sort by the Created tab, which is right here. Of course, we can always select the columns by right-clicking and selecting columns. So if something's not showing up, you just select it over here, push it over here, and that way you'll have that column. Alrighty, so Steve, any other things on the agenda that we need to cover here? Any last minute questions, or should we let Scott get in here? And
Well, do we want to talk about how we set those price alerts?
yeah, why don't we do that real quick here?
Yeah, we'll just run through them real quick. And you guys are going to notice the majority of these are pullback alerts today, because again, we're kind of in that no man's land in the spiders and Qs, chopping back and forth, no real clear direction today. And again, like I mentioned, the Trade of the Week selection committee had a hard time coming up with anything good. So the pickings seem a little small. So just with that as a backdrop, we're really not in the mood to be chasing a lot of stuff. So we're going to be setting a few more pullback alerts than normal here. Better to miss something than chase it and get clobbered the very next day. So yeah, let's expand your daily chart window a little bit there so we can see some of the methodology. Right off the bat, we're going to start with DISH. We talked about this one a little earlier, and you did see a red line in there. 3 good solid green candle bars on DISH coming out of that kind of red bar ignore for whatever you want to call it on a daily chart there. But again, it's a little bit dicey to be chasing up here, so we're going to set a pullback alert, see if we can set a lobster trap, as I like to call them sometimes, and see if they spring. So with the old axiom going back to the prior resistance there in DISH, you can see we put the pullback alert right above those prior resistance points, and maybe we give back most of that candle the next day, 2 or 3 even in DISH, and that price alert will go off and give us an opportunity to pull it up, look at the market, see what's going on, and of course you guys have got to remember we're right smack in the middle of earnings season. Just about every stock out there has got earnings coming up here in the next week or two, so stay very active on that single stock window. That single stock window will give you a countdown to when these earnings are. You've got to make that part of your checklist. It's almost like the Trinity 3.5. We got to remember to add the single stock price list to make sure that we've got good volume, good volatility, good float, and not have earnings coming up in a day, because there's nothing worse than going into earnings when you didn't know it, because the trading gods will punish you. They will go against you. That's just my experience.
Right, and once again, you can always add that earnings date column to any top list that you're currently watching. Whether it's a single stock window or just adding the column to an alert window or a top list, you definitely want to watch that thing in the short term here. Okay, moving right along, we had DISH there. Now we have BCRX.
Very similar. Yeah, same thing. I mean, you guys can probably, hear what I'm going to say. There's the red line. It's a pullback. 3 good days of movement. Like the daily chart, like that void up above, I just think there might be a more patient entry to be had, and we'll use the tops of those prior candles back there as a prior resistance becomes future support type. And if it doesn't trigger, well, then it doesn't trigger. No harm, no foul.
Yes, indeed. All right. Next, we have Flow.
This one is from below. As you
Yep.
can see, we've pressed up against that level a few times, pulled back, pressed up again. We just barely took it out, but I think there could be some follow-through on this one. I don't really know where I'd set a price alert on a pullback here. It's kind of in between, so I think, taking out the highs of today would be something to watch, and then if you'd used your stop, you'd probably use those levels just below where it got hung up before, exactly those levels just below the current price alert as a stop loss level.
Moving right along, ONTY. That was also from below.
Yeah, same thought again. We've had a lot of nice sideways action there. We haven't broken out necessarily because we still have that high wick to work on. So using the high of today, we do what we call that head start look, where maybe we get it on the radar. Maybe you only take half or a third, but then with the idea being we want to take out that wick prior from last March or a month ago from last month. But that's the thinking on this one.
Eyes.
Yeah, I saw Barry and the guys playing this one in the chat room today. Had a nice explosive candle up, so don't really think we want to be chasing this one because you can see it did pull back, did not close on its highs. So as you can see, that red line corresponds to maybe 4 or 5 candle wick highs. So the thinking being this pullback alert could pull back to prior resistance levels and try and dig in a little bit there.
VSTM.
Once again, nice big long candle. Not a good idea to chase those big long candles in my opinion, but where could we pull back and possibly get a free look at it for a 2.0 type entry? Right there at that prior breakout. So kind of where it broke out from, it could be coming back. If not, let it go. Better to let it go than not chase it.
And last but not least, Frumpet. Frumpets.
I like that. Again, not too much chase here. We've been kind of digging, pushing below these levels for a while. Today's candle was pretty much relative to where we've seen in the past. Nothing really an anomaly of a big, large, average true range candle. So we're comfortable just putting in the price alert at the high of the wick of today's close. Maybe it takes a day or two to trigger, but that's the level of interest that we'd want to see moving higher. A couple of quick questions. These alerts can be set up to trigger with a sound. If you want to show that demonstration real quick, Jamie, that'd be great.
Sure.
And for Tom, the functionality of the price alerts is part of the premium package of the Holly and back testing premium package. So yeah, once you buy the lifetime alert license, the price alerts are available to you, and the cool thing about it is they are shareable. We don't really know where that's going to be going forward, but we see a lot of excitement in having this in the hands of some good professional traders trying to share their homework with some people who are trying to figure some things out. All right.
Right, and it's as simple as this to attach a sound to your price alerts. We just right-click, we go to Actions. We check this, and then we just hit Set Up Sound, so you can pick these little pre-configured boinks and beeps and exclamations, or we've got a cool little text-to-speech which will attempt to say the symbol as it comes out. Sometimes it sounds like a symbol, sometimes it sounds kind of strange.
If the symbol is a word that can be pronounced with a vowel, she'll say the word, otherwise she'll say the symbol.
Right, you just might hear something like blah. But in any case, it's sound. It will get your attention. So whether you're using the text-to-speech or the Bing, it all does the same thing. So really.
All right. So for those of you that have the price alerts limit functionality that show up to these events looking for a little bit of headway on homework, Jamie did drop that cloud link into the chat about 10 minutes ago. So it's been in the chat window for a little while now, and it's available to you going forward. But that pretty much, I think that pretty much does it for it today, doesn't it?
I think so. And just so everybody knows what's coming, I just installed the latest developers version. So just to give everybody a peek at what's coming, we're going to have daily and intraday P&L that you're going to be able to see in graphical format here. Now obviously it's not functioning yet. They just got these fields inserted, but just wanted to give everybody a peek that we are going to have the performance graphs in the price alert window pretty soon. So I think that's about it. So Scott, if you're ready to come tell everyone how they can benefit from the packages and codes today, I think they're ready for you.
Yeah, it sounds great. Why don't you go ahead and put it on that slide with the pricing. Thanks.
Sure.
Oh, and just a clarification I was typing something to clarify something Steve was writing to someone about the Scottrade version. It's almost exactly the same as Trade Ideas Pro, what's in Scottrade, except it lacks the AI and price limit alerts and the new and that kind of stuff that goes along. It does have back testing that's included, so the odds maker's there. And the current version in Scottrade should have multi-strategy windows along with the alert windows and top lists. But does not have the new stuff, the best stuff. So pricing, we're a software as a service company, and our core is our subscription. It's $99 a month for all your data exchange fees, training, full hour of one-on-one training, the charting, all of that. So when you sign up for either the monthly or the annual plan, the best thing to do is to go to support, click on training, and go ahead and select your preferred time and date for training. It's the best way to get a head start. Get a feel for everything, anything you might need to know right away, and then attend our webinars, and also go to Barry's trading room every day. The trading room's open all throughout the day, and it's free. So the annual plan saves you a bundle over the $99 a month. It includes all the same great stuff. It's $80.88 a year, and when you're in that, you get grandfathered in at that rate for when we do raise the rates. The AI strategies and the odds maker and price limit alerts all go along with that AI channel price. It's $1,100. It's a one-time license, and it gets you all of the access to the AI, Holly, the price alerts, the new stuff. Also lets you backtest the entire market with no programming, and you can optimize your own strategies. You just take a class with Jamie or Steve to learn how to do all that kind of stuff too. Now the next slide shows you a little something that we like to do. To thank you for coming to the webinar is give you a discount. That code Holly27 is good until the end of business on Friday, and it has to be all caps, just like you see there, HOLLY27. And that code this week takes half off your first month, 20% off your first year, or 30% off that lifetime AI odds maker license. So if you're already a subscriber, you can upgrade to get that odds maker license with the AI for just $770, and you have it forever along with the subscription. It's good. You can upgrade to a year or jump on for a year at $710 for your first year. Or try us out for your first month, just $49. There's no contract. Get in on the training. Come to the daily trading room, and you'll see the benefit of using Trade Ideas and want to get in on the AI and all the other stuff too. So if you want to get the AI and a year together, the easiest way to do that is to click through the bit.ly link that you can also find in your download. If you go to the downloads panel on your GoToWebinar interface, you'll see there's a PDF there for you to download, and that'll give you these pages as well. It's an easy way to have this handy so that later this afternoon you can go ahead and do this. Go to that page, bit.ly/AI Holly. The AI Holly needs to be all capitals, AIHOLLY, and then use the code, same code, Holly27, same deal until Friday. And what happens when you use it on that page, when you have the bundle together, is instead of paying $1,988 for the full year, which is $888 plus the odds maker AI license, which is $1,100, you get that 30% taken off of the odds maker and the 20% taken off of the year to save over $500 immediately. So you get out at just $1,480 for everything for the year, and then you renew at $888. Fantastic way to upgrade if you're already on the monthly plan. And if you do that monthly plan upgrade to this, shoot us an email to info@TradeIdeas so that we can just go ahead and check out and make sure that that monthly is going to be switched off and you're just on the new plan. Any questions, email info@trade-ideas.com. Again, there's a handout with this information if you want to download that right now from your GoToWebinar panel. Recording of this will be up later tonight or tomorrow morning. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Jamie, for the good presentation. There's a QA webinar and a Trade of the Week webinar on Wednesday, and there's also a Trading Studio on Thursday. We hope to see most of you all there again. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Yep. Cheers.
All right, thank you.
Bye.